Alright everybody, you want to find out who my dirty dozen are? My favorite 12 villains of all times? Let's go. Now, the only thing about this list that I'm going to say is that I didn't include anything that was not really human, meaning that, the shark from Jaws isn't going to be there, the HAL 9000 isn't going to be there, even the Terminator isn't going to be there, even though they were characters I loved and was crazy about. I didn't put them on this list because I wanted to keep this list more like, kind of like a humanish, human-y type of thing. So, the Wolfman and stuff ain't going to be there either. So, let's kick it off and have a good time. Alright, let's go. Coming in at number 12. Top Dollar from The Crow, played by Michael Wincott. I always loved this character. He was kind of like too elegant and too together, too smart and too cool to be the bad guy that he was. But he was the bad guy, plain and simple. That great speech he has with Brandon Lee at the end where he says, I'm sorry about what happened to your girlfriend, but nothing in this hell happens without my say-so. But you have brought a smile to my face. Was one of the coolest lines ever delivered from a bad guy to a good guy in a motion picture. So, for me, Top Dollar, The Crow, will always be legendary. Alright, next. Okay, coming in at number 11, Stuntman Mike, Kurt Russell from Death Proof. Come on, man. Kurt Russell was so damn eerie when he played that role. He was so creepy. You knew there was something going on. You knew there was something weird going on. You knew there was something dark going on. But he hid it behind this 70s sleazy, charming demeanor of call it what you will. I don't even know what to say. It was just an excellent performance. And then the arc that he takes at the end, which I don't want to give away too much, but you know what he does at the end, was just so crazy and just so cool and made it just so much more fun. So, Stuntman Mike, that's it, number 11. All right, let's get to number 10. Okay, here we go. The Kurgan, Clancy Brown from Highlander. Come on, man. Clancy Brown took this shit to the next level. You know the whole it's better to burn out than to fade away type thing. He took that role and went so far out on a limb with it and so far past the point with it that you were like, this is a bad guy just enjoying being immortal and enjoying being a bad guy. And his church scene and the whole thing was just so over the top and so crazy that he took it to a level, 30-something years ago, that was so far past the point that it was just amazing. It's one of those great performances that'll always hang out and last till this day. So, the Kurgan, Clancy Brown, you gotta love it. How can you not? All right, let's keep going. Okay, number 9. Number 9 and number 8 are both kind of tough because to me, they're not really villains. But they have to kind of fall into this list. So they're low on the list. They should have been higher because of their greatness, but I don't consider them villains. So, number 9, Colonel Kurtz, Apocalypse Now, Marlon Brando. Yo, from the second you seen him in the shadows, your eyes were glued to the screen. You listened to every word that man says. And you're sitting there marveling in the fact that he's so broken and destroyed and twisted, but yet there's a truth and a realism to what he's telling you that you are captivated by the character. And including the fact that they built him up in a masterful way all through the motion picture, which is you're listening to the tapes about him, you're seeing the photos about him. So by the time you see him, the reveal is just so amazing that even though all you're seeing is a face and shadows, you're glued to the screen. And what Brando did in that movie was just off the top. So, Colonel Kurtz, Marlon Brando, again, more of a tragic figure than a villain, but I guess he kind of can go on this list because he's the villain you've been waiting for. But was he the villain? Who the hell knows? But he was doing some crazy shit, to say the least. All right, let's keep going. Okay, number 8. Another one that should be higher on my list because it's one of my all-time favorite movie characters of all times, bar none. But because is he a villain? Is he not a villain? Tough. He's the baddie in the movie, but is he really the baddie? And that's Roy Batty. Batty, whatever. Roy Batty, the late Rutger Hauer, and the immortal Blade Runner. What he brought to that role was just so deep and meaningful, and what he did with that character was so deep and meaningful, and the way the character was even written was so deep and meaningful, whether it was by Hampton or Peoples and their combined efforts, whatever. But, and of course, there might, Philip K. Dick run around, his spirit of it in there to a degree of all. But what they did with that character, where you actually felt for him, he was the more humane. He was more human than the humans by that point in the movie. So I guess he was the villain, but to me he was more the tragic figure, and it was just a masterful performance. It was just over the top. That will always be one of the great cinematic performances of all time in a character that was the bad guy and the villain. But it was only because he had emotions and feelings and was human and more caring than the humans were at that point. Simply is as it is. Okay, number 7. Man, this should probably be higher. I don't know. There's so many great ones. Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates in Psycho. Come on. His gentility is what made you snap when you found out he was the baddie. Now, come on, as anybody who's seen this movie that's of my age, you kind of knew going in what the twist and the turn was. You know what I mean? It's like who didn't know what happens in Psycho by the time you've seen it at that point. But the way that Anthony Perkins played it was so far demented and twisted, but not until it went demented and twisted. And all through the movie, he's so light and so strangely genteel. But then, just the way he looked into the camera and spoke to himself in that other voice, when he's looking there about not harming a fly, that shit was chilling. It made his character legendary, and it took a movie that I don't care if it was made in the old generation, the new generation, or which generation, it made that movie immortalized forever. So, Norman Bates, Anthony Perkins, Psycho, bam, there you go. Okay, number 6. Anthony Perkins. Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs. Listen, man, everybody went and seen Silence of the Lambs when it came out. It was just a phenomenal motion picture. And the way he played that character, it was just phenomenal. It was like you knew this man was more intelligent than anybody in the room. You knew this man was miles ahead of everybody else that he was communicating with. You knew this man, even though he wasn't the Buffalo Bill villain, you knew that this guy was chilling from the minute you seen him, because he was just going to dissect your brain and take you apart in ways that you couldn't even imagine. He was so good in that role, and that role was so well written and so well done that you almost didn't even care about Buffalo Bill. You were more glued to Hannibal Lecter, and he wasn't even the one running around killing anybody. I mean, okay, near the end he took out some cops and shit, but you get what I'm saying. Hannibal Lecter, Anthony Perkins, Silence of the Lambs is what it is. Okay, let's keep going. Number 5, Jack Nicholson, Jack Torrance, The Shining. That was one of those performances that you were just glued to. Glued to. You watch this guy go from being a strange, little odd, whatever, family man, writer, teacher, whatever the hell he was supposed to be. And you watch him slowly turn and descend, whether he was going crazy, whether he was becoming possessed, whatever, what the hell was ever happening with him. You didn't care because it was so riveting to watch as he did it. And you could see him fighting it in the beginning when he's like having the dreams. I had a horrible dream. I can't believe I did. All that kind of stuff. And then when he succumbs to it and he turns, he goes so far, and the performance is so twisted and gleeful and bizarre that it is just amazing. So no matter what you do, no matter how many years this movie's around, watching The Shining is always going to be a special event, because the performance of Nicholson and the way that the character goes is just stunning. It's one of those movies, no matter how many times you watch, you just go, holy shit, wow. You know what I mean? So, Jack Torrance, The Shining, bam. Let's keep going. Okay, number 4. Heath Ledger as the Joker in The Dark Knight. My God. The acting, the writing, the combination. He stole the motion picture. Let's face reality. I mean, Christian Bale and everybody was running around in the movie doing whatever the hell they were doing. But that movie was about Heath Ledger. You were glued to Heath Ledger. That's all you were waiting to see was Heath Ledger. What he did in that motion picture was just so phenomenal with that character. And the way the character was written, because he had a very twisted, dark take on the world. But the character, if you listened to it, in a lot of ways what he was saying kind of had some validity to it and truth to it. So it was like listening to a madman, but a madman who had a bit of clarity. And it was just done so dark, so disturbing, such precision dementia that he was gone, but he was still there. And he was taking you to where he was going because he was so far into his own insanity. The way that Heath Ledger did this role was just, if there was a role to go out on, you know, sad that he passed away, but if there was a role to end your shit on, that's the role to end your shit on. He was just amazing in it. The character was amazing. That's it. Let's keep going. Okay, number 3, and this one I don't even want on the list. Really? Because it's not a villain. But because it's referring to the villain part of him, I guess we got to go with it. But Darth Vader, Star Wars. Listen, everybody's going to say he wasn't your number one. He wasn't your number one. You've got 10,000 Darth Vader things around your house. It's all Vader, 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 everything. He was a tragic figure. He was a figure that when you look at the whole character arc of him, was a person that really, if you watch 1 through 6, you were kind of rooting for. And really, if you watch it as a complete film, you were rooting for Vader to come back to be Anakin and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes just to the Vader side of him and the impact that that character had when Star Wars first came out was chilling. Everything was Vader. Everybody knew Vader. Everybody still knows Vader. Nobody gives a shit about Kylo and all the crap going on now. It's still Vader. It's still the old school Star Wars. And that is it. Darth Vader. Bam. There you go. Number 2, Khan Noonien Singh from Wrath of Khan, Star Trek 2. Oh my God, dude, come on. If you weren't riveted by the performance that Ricardo Montalban put on in that motion picture, then there was something probably technically wrong with you. He was just amazing. From the minute he came in to the little, cargo bay or whatever the hell it was from the Botany Bay and went in there and gave his speech, it just blew your mind and you knew it. You knew this man meant business. You knew this man was intelligent. You knew this man was articulate. You knew this man used to be royalty. But he was so driven with revenge and hatred that it clogged his mind. It clouded his vision. And you took this one guy who was this once mighty character, and now, through his just rage, it was forcing him to do stupid things and things he shouldn't even be doing. Khan Noonien Singh, Ricardo Montalban, point fucking blank, that is it. Alright, and number 1, for me, the greatest movie villain of all time. I know, this is not about the acting. I know, it's not about the things that he says. I know. But it will always be the original, the only slasher that ever friggin' mattered, other than, Norman Bates. But the only slasher that ever mattered, Michael Myers. Listen, I don't give a shit about Jason. I don't give a rat's ass about Freddy. Jigsaw can go fuck himself. None of that stuff matters. Michael Myers is and was the character of all time. The senselessness of it. The emotionlessness, missingless, I don't even know how to say it, of his actions, of his demeanor. The roboticness, the soulless, that whatever you want to call it. Whatever he was, when you see Michael Myers on the screen, you were terrified. When you didn't see him on the screen, you were even more terrified. And when you heard Dr. Loomis, played by the great Donald Pleasance, talk about him, you were even more terrified. He was the epitome of soulless evil in that motion picture. He didn't relish what he did. He didn't sit there and have these violent breakout attacks of rage. What he did was just with an emotionless, machine-like, just driven by something you couldn't even understand, viciousness. And it was one of the most stunning things I've ever seen in a motion picture to this day. Michael Myers, I know it's a slasher flick and blah, 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 but that is the granddaddy of them all. Carpenter wrote a character that was just, and Deborah Hill, wrote a character that was just so freaky and soulless and blank and terrifying that when you were a kid in the 70s or 80s and you seen that for the first time, you were shitting your pants 3 shades of yellow. That character will always be, to me, one of the great villains of all times, not because of any great acting feat, although, you know, it was cool the way that he moved. It was cool the way that he carried himself. Played by the great Nick Castle, but it was cool, and several, like Stunt Person and another guy who did him when his makeup, Tony Moran, who was him with the makeup off, or the mask off, whatever. But really, that was Nick Castle, and that was John Carpenter, and that was Deborah Hill, and they put together to make this thing that was just stunning, blank, emotionless, terrifying. It was so devoid of what we all are that we couldn't even relate to it, and that's what made him the greatest movie villain of all time. Okay, everybody, hope you had a good time, hope you had a fun listen, all that kind of happy stuff. Leave a comment, say something, who knows, there's probably people I forgot, who the hell knows, it's late, I'm just making a video, I'm having fun. God bless, everybody take care. Thanks for all the kind words that everybody leaves below and stuff like that. You people really, you make my day. So, God bless. Take care of yourselves. See you soon.